I'm writing right now, and one of the things I'm writing about is the imagination and its relationship to embodied states, and which has a lot to do with relational intelligence when that's what you care about. So the imagination and embodied states are always linked. They're never not linked. But looking at them in relations to embodied to relational intelligence and what we do when we're doing contact improvisation, that is that's special. That's do that work well. I really have to explore embodied states because the embodied state that you are dancing, living and dancing, um, the embodied state you're in that is in relations with the world is the embodied is organized by it organizes what you can know, what you can do, how you can communicate. So when contact dancers come into class and they are um, very muscular, let's say they come in, they're doing their moves. And when movement is a muscular project for them, moving their muscles is moving their body, and moving their body is moving their muscles. When that happens, then I am working with somebody that has what I would consider kind of high tone, physical tone, and low capacity to communicate with a partner. So when I look at that state, I wonder how is it that that person is like that? How does this happen? What has this person come to believe that that way of living in a physical form is important? And very often, what I get to is, oh, they understand the body visually. And what they understand physically is that great feeling of muscles moving, which is a great feeling. I agree. It's a fabulous feeling. Feeling strong is a really good feeling on one level, but it's limited. Um, the other thing about it being a visual body is that muscular bodies, high tone bodies, look muscular, and they in popular culture look good. So when we think when so these are this kind of physicality, and I say body, and you and I know that I'm always talking about a body that is a mind. It's never not a mind. So I should be saying the body mind, that body mind, and I will continue with that. I'm thinking of the gym body, though, I have to say, which is a body mind, but it's a gym body. um, when I look at that, I realize that even though it's organized around a visual understanding of physicality, um, that it is the imagination that is forming the state that gets lived. And so the imagination becomes very important. How we imagine, what we imagine is possible. If you've been coming to listen to me, you know that I often raise this voice, which is Spinoza is saying we don't know what a body can do. And on other levels, we can also say we don't know what a body can be. And in the in looking at um, the imagine what we imagine a body can be and do, we find, and I've said this recently, that we find that the scientific revolution into the Enlightenment was really profound in shaping our sensibility of what a body was. Um, it decentered the human in one sense, and it organized the human. It was like Copernicus decentered the human by saying that the Earth was revolving around the sun, as were all the planets. They weren't simply revolving around the Earth. So the human lost their place of importance with respect to a universe, but then they also um, became this with dualism, this sense, and I'm moving toward Descartes, this sense of uh, that science was of the realm of the material world, and that the mind was of the sense of the the mind was of the sense of the God. God was, the spirit, the mind spirit, he called the spirit. Um, but it was everything that was intellect was um, was godly. Um, Not that every thought was God's thought, but that it held its place. That place was there for the church to hold, to guide. And thinking, the notion at the time was that God gave the world to man. And here we are with this dualistic notion of the body. And as I'm speaking here, I'm constantly struggling with this body mind dualism and the necessity to put this thing together, because the imaginary. Hello, Adele.
Hello, hello. Good to be
Hello.
here.
Welcome.
Thank
Um,
you.
and where do you come join us from?
I am in China, Chengdu now.
Ah, right, right.
Yes,
Wow,
you
middle of
remember.
the night for you.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, so this sensibility that the mind is a body, the body is a mind, is scientifically we might say that's not so. The body dies, and then what? There you have a hard time finding a mind there. And yet in lived experience, which is different than science. So the realm of science was the objective world, the realm of the mind, of the feeling body, the spirit was the subjective world, and science gets has the realm of the objective world. And what has happened is that we all kind of have this sense that even though we're subjects, we have feeling bodies, feeling sensibilities. Um, the idea that we value that the value of science was the value of the ability to look out at the world from a position that was objective, that was separate from that world. And we have been living this kind of sensibility in the West, at least. And I have to say, in the West, Adele, because in China, the scientific revolution um, has uh, has a completely different trajectory. The Western scientific revolution has a completely different trajectory, and I can't say that I know what it is. So I can only speak to what I understand about the West. So you take it as you will. The fact of the matter is that embodied states and the notion of a human that is this body that has come from the scientific revolution through the Enlightenment and now has been kind of offered and spread throughout the world, and mostly because of economics. The positioning of that particular disembodied human. I say disembodied because the mind is separate from the body. That mind body is um, is was valuable economically. It meant that science we could act on the material world as at will and without considering that we might be acting on a world of subjects, a world that also had feelings, that also had body, mind.
How do we know that this disembodiment have happened during scientific revolution and not much
It
earlier?
actually happened before. It happened with Aristotle. And so it has been a progression. It's not a
Mm,
clean scientific revolution, but this is what
mm,
the scientific revolution did, as I understand it,
yeah,
is
yeah.
it kind of calcified it.
Mm,
It
mm,
said,
mm,
"This is this," and the world of commerce
mm.
understood the values of that.
Yeah, I kind of feel the scientific revolution created tyranny for that that approach in the culture.
Yes, and that's why economically, it's an economic value that has changed bodies
Mm,
and
mm,
changed how people live. So
mm,
then you have, at least in the United States, in America, you have the government forcing Native peoples who have a very different understanding of embodiment, the cultural embodiment that comes through the native populations. And as I understand it, it's not just our American original peoples, it's also most indigenous peoples have the sense that the body is of the soil. It is an emergent phenomenon that comes from the earth that acts as earth, and that everything that we can see is of this soil. So that for them, an embodied state, a tree is relationally an ancestor or a part of their being, not different, not separate, not something you can act on without acknowledging and recognizing your relations and in fact even speaking to that tree. So that recognizing the life, the lived values of that tree that are that are of your body, your brothers or sisters. So family for sure. So this is, but this was imposed by the U.S. government to let that go, so that the it was forced through educational system that took children away from parents in order to re-implant these other values, because how we embody is our understanding of selfhood impacts how we experience the world. And that experience is all we have as knowing. Any knowing we have is an experiential knowing, it's a relational knowing. And if our relations are distant, we're at a distance from the one we're in relations with, then those relations are we're living with this massive chasm between ourselves and the world in which we are embedded. We do not recognize our entangled state. We might intellectually recognize it, but as a lived form, we're not living the experience of that entanglement. So, how we imagine has everything to do with what we get, because our imagination functions on some level to as creative of that which is our embodied state. Of course, when we speak of embodiment is we're all embodied. It's not that there is a state that is the embodied state. Embodiment just is a recognition that there is a mind functioning and organizing the senses, organizing the viscera to be engaged in the world. And you may be embodying an identity, and most, I mean, especially in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, since Judith Butler started writing about identity, the notion of identity, particularly genderized identities, but cultural identities, all of those identities get lived and form how we know. When we do not embody the same. And yet there are characteristics that are familiar, and this lived dualism that we have inherited here in the West is one to really consider and move through, especially if you're a contact improv dancer. And as contact improv dancers, when we remain separate from our world, separate from the dance itself, separate from our partners, then we are dancing in isolation, in a sense. We're dancing with limited knowing. What happens in those states is that the body doesn't function. I mean, it's functioning as embedded in the world, because that's what bodies do. They're embedded in the world. So you touch a cup and you automatically understand the cup's relationship to the earth. Unless you're living in a visually separate world, in which case you visually see the cup and you hold the cup, but it's not translating to your fascia so that you're feeling weight, knowing weight, and understanding cup. And that happens. I see this all the time. Um, as I pick up my cup. um, so
Can I can I drop something here? If you can just leave it, but I'm
please,
curious because you mentioned about this identities, which is Judith Butler or Western thought these identities is more or less social within this span
yeah,
of society and culture. But in this part of the world, identities goes across the span of history in a way, like past lives and all that that can be present
exactly.
at the same time, all that. So how that aspect comes into your thought.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, in your part of the world, identity is relationally embedded in generations of being. Yeah. But
Yeah, exactly.
also, I mean, and that's kind of a vertical, we could call that vertical embeddedness. But we could also look horizontally. In your part of the world, it is expected that everyone understands they're part of a society. They're part of this. You are already embedded and responsible for your neighbors.
Exactly.
You're not separate. And this is a hugely different way of understanding and living.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, in the West and in the East. In Japan, I was just in Japan. I was just in Shanghai, and then I was in Japan. And um, the in Japan, the it, I was doing a class with my host, and she was talking about the God of various different parts of our bodies. So she had a God for the hand, a God for the arm, a God for the head, a God for the and this sense. And if you traveled through the countryside in Japan, there are all of these small shrines for this field of corn and this field of this rice field and for this tree and the
Exactly.
shrines that recognize um, say the spirit of place, the
Um,
spirit of material of being is a very particular embodiment.
yeah, yeah.
And it gets lived very differently. So that when I'm teaching, and I was teaching, and I say, so what did you guys learn here? Nobody would acknowledge learning something because, and as I later found out, not acknowledge learning something because that would be presumptuous. That because that level of recognition goes not just to place, but it goes to an understanding of the value of things. Um, there's a book by a Japanese writer called The Aesthetics of Care. And this understanding that the act of caring itself has has an aesthetic value that one acts relationally on um, um, on valuing something that there's an art to that valuing that all valuing is not the same. All care is not the same care. In the West, we throw the word care around as if that just means, okay, my heart feels for that,
Mm, mm.
or I make sure that that's okay. The bringing it back to our dancing, bringing it back to contact improvisation so that we really study and look at what we're doing when we're engaged with one another. We want to, what I'm suggesting is that we want to understand who and have made um, kind of come into a fullness of the idea of what it is to be a human being. Who am I? Not on the cultural level of identity or the social level of identity, but in terms of what's possible here. What are the capacities I have as a human being? Where does my liveliness act and function in a world? Am I, for instance, living in a dead world, a dead material world, so that it's just a world of stuff and I get to move it all around and work with it? That's a very different human than if I'm a human that is embedded in a world that is itself various aspects and levels and degrees of conscious being. That's very different than if I have, and so my dances, those two dances will be very different dances. One, the first dance would be a dance across a gulf that separates me from my partner. And while I can feel my partner move, that is external to me. If I have this sensibility that my flesh actually is boundless, that thinking is flesh based. It's in the body. It's not in the brain. So when I'm dancing, I'm not seeking brain knowledge. I'm seeking what we might call body knowledge. I'm seeking body level thinking, which is different in kind from neurological thinking. And while the neurological thinking is important, it's not the whole job. So then I start to recognize or experience a body that it is extending. It doesn't start and stop at my flesh. It, in fact, is an extending form that I'm elastic as a body mind. How I function, my imagination starts with, well, so what do I want? What do I want the body mind to be? What is the most extraordinary, amazing human I can imagine? Because what I find is that when I ask my flesh to extend, to reach, to touch tactily, when I live in a touch-based world, I function very differently than when I live in a visually based world. When I'm embedded, tactily embedded, it's a very different, my dancing is very different than when it's a visually based world. Now, I come from dance initially, and dance is, as I was trained as a young student, is a visual art form. Yes, it's kinesthetic. We move, and we have to be skillful movers. But as an art, it's visual. Contact
I
is improvisation is not visual at all. Contact improvisation fails when it's a visual art form.
mm,
When it is a kinesthetic and tactile art form, it opens up into this extraordinary stuff. Yeah, go
mm.
ahead, Adele.
As you're speaking, idea coming up for me, question, is that so about
Yes,
contact,
of course.
but also when you are talking about the tactile word and being in the tactile connection with the word, there's an assumption there's a certain kind of touch. It's typically the type of touch that we are familiar with in contact is an attuned, gentle, kind type of touch.
Mm,
And then the type of vision that you're referring to typically is a non-attuned, harsh, target-oriented kind of vision.
right. And
So
of
this is
course,
like
there
the
are.
vision,
Mm,
like the type of vision, I don't know, in Indonesia or the type of like in a South Asia, the type of vision people are exercising, the soft, gentle, it looks like the type of touch that we are experiencing
exactly.
contact. So it's not about the medium, it's about a certain quality of the medium, I
I
guess.
agree with you. I agree with you totally. Um, in the West, we're very, very trained toward the, the kind of aggressive visuality that is isolating objects in order to detail and function. And so I am speaking of that. Yes, I in contact, we have to train that soft vision,
Mhm.
the vision of a child
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
in the West adults lose. They have to be brought back to that kind of vision. Absolutely. You're right. Um, so this East-West embodied thing is really tricky because it's not absolute. And to understand, in fact, thank God, it demonstrates to us how extraordinary being a physical being is, because we will live so many different realities. In fact, there's many more kinds and qualities of vision. I mean, I think of the soft um, diffuse vision is different also from that vision which can only call the eyes of love, where you're looking to and at someone maybe, but you're also embedded in everything you're seeing. You're in love with not just them, but the whole field of them, the whole world that they're in. And the world becomes a world of love. So you're doing this kind of in between place of being able to see something and see everything at the same time. Um, yeah, um, where was I? I was thinking of I was speaking to to the relationship between what we imagine a human can be and what that human gets to experience and what they get to experience in their relations. So when I'm relationally dancing contact with my world, with the cup, when this is a contact dance, then I am have a sensibility of bringing the world into and engaging in the world in the dance. The sense that as I act, the world comes alive. I reckon so that when I acknowledge a tree saying hello, so to speak, I have this dance I love to teach, which I call the hello dance, because the experience is not just one-sided. It's not just me acting on the world. It is the world returns, and there is this shared sensibility, so that the experience of being Nita is an experience that far exceeds my own flesh. And I get to be this function as this larger form. And in functioning as a larger form, I um, there's a richness to the experience of being, which is, in fact, the same with the dance. The dance becomes enriched. My partner, I do not separate myself from my partner. I can dance as my partner, as an aspect. Um, my flesh is now a living zone, which I offer as inclusive of my partner. I do not separate myself. And my partner's being is an aspect of my own being. We are functioning as a single action of being. Not all the time. Certainly it falls apart into separate forms. But the fact of that potential to act as one means that we get to find ways of relating, which I would call co-creation, meaning we get to act on that immediacy. And the ability to act as one with a cup, with a partner, that capacity means that we are, I live in the richness of a world of communion. To have, to be a human that has that elastic range is because I'm also very Western. I can do that body mind thing really in a flash. I can separate myself out in a flash. But to notice how I am embodied as a human influences how I am acting in the world. I think that when I start to look at what is happening in this historical moment, with climate change being one of the key factors that we really have to recognize and deal with. That and the levels of pollution that we are um, that are impacting the world itself. Um, I say to myself, there's a crisis here. And that crisis is a crisis of the imagination. It's a crisis of embodied states that people are functioning without being embedded in the world they are engaged as. They're not acting as the world, they're acting separately from the world. They're acting on the world rather than as the world. And that issue does not get resolved until we resolve the issue of embodied states. So that's where my fascination is right now. And I'm going to stop and open up this to everyone. Please chat, talk, say what you have to say.
So this embodied the question of embodiment, you think it comes before that, the question of imagination, basically.
No, I think the question of I think if science says if science is engaged in the 17th century, changes how people embody, or maybe they already had changed, but it kind of anchors that sensibility so that by the Enlightenment, everybody is acting as separate beings. That's an imagination. It took imagination to imagine that you're separate.
Mm.
And that influences embodiment. So I understand imagination as preceding embodiment.
Okay. Mhm.
And I'm saying there's a lack of imagination here
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
gets trained, at least for us in our school system. It's in our language.
Mhm.
It's been, anchored in all of that. But if we reimagine what a human can be, what happens when we start with asking the question, what do I want? Because I understand this organism as being extraordinarily creative.
Mhm. Why you connect it with the wanting, this question of imagination, how that relates to this
When I
question?
say, what
Because
do I want, rather
what do
than
I
what do I
want?
not want?
No,
Because,
no, 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 no. Just about wanting. Why we need to that question? I want or I don't want. Why that
oh,
question matters?
because um, I could imagine, um,
Because I hear it very, it's a very American question to me.
oh,
With
yeah,
all due
yeah.
respect, is like a.
No, 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 that's okay. I think that's a good question. Um, why wanting? Um, I think when I ask that question, I'm coming from psychological training, um, which is asking, which is noticing that people do lot. I was just working with someone, in fact, on compositional work, who was engaged in a very destructive self-talk,
Mm,
right? Very
mm,
just blaming herself, saying I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, blah 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 blah,
mm,
all that stuff, which interrupts creativity. She
mm,
can't be creative if she's going to do that self-talk.
mm. I understand.
So I say, well, how's that working for you? Do you like that? Is that getting you where you want? In
Mm,
other words, are you able to be creative?
mm,
And the answer, of course, is no. It's actually not serving the job. It's doing this other job. It's
mm,
it's making me resistant. It's
mm,
making me fight, but there are other ways of doing this.
mm. So it's the
Other
kind of
than
question that a coach would ask.
it's the kind of question a coach would ask. Right, exactly. And so then I say, well, what do you want instead? I want to be creative. So then we start to work on how you be creative. So it's from that perspective that I'm saying, what do you want?
Right.
Do you want to live in a limited body? Do you want the world to be out of communication so nothing can communicate with anything?
Mm,
Or do you want to live in a world that is constantly in communication? And guess what? You haven't been listening.
mm,
That's a world
mm,
I want. I want to go,
mm,
hey, body, learn to listen. Learn to be the form. What needs to happen for this form to be able to hear the world? So, for instance, when I'm teaching contact, I started this talking about these, firm bodies, visually gorgeous body minds, And that body mind actually can't be receptive because
Mm.
it doesn't, in some sense, it's not vibrating. It's not, it doesn't have the capacity to tune with the world.
Mm.
It can act on the
Mm.
world, but it can't tune.
Mm.
So I need to live in a body that can tune,
Mm. That can tune. Mm.
that can tune with my partner,
Mm.
that can tune with an environment, that can tune with an idea.
Mm.
And so then I ask myself, what is that form? And what aspects of being can 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 change, can act on that?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, what is it that I want to tune into?
It's exactly,
So
where's
it's
the
out there.
communication
It's not
here?
from my wanting. It's
Oh,
out
absolutely.
there.
The wanting is not important. The communication is important, but I
Mm.
have to go through what's possible.
Mm.
What do I want to believe? If what I've been given to believe isn't working, and it's not,
Mm.
my schooling did not take me where I want to go. It has taken me out of relations rather than into relations with the world.
Mm.
Then I have to function, I have to figure out myself what's another possibility.
Mm.
What are the possibilities here? It's not science, it's not objective, it's very subjective.
Mm.
Even in asking what are the possibilities, one thinks, okay, now you have to have an objective moment. And perhaps there is this sense of being able to step into a perceptual positioning in which I hold this realm of possible. So this the subjective position is the position of being me looking out at the world from this physical form,
Mm.
through my eyes, through my touch. But I'm not limited to that. I have a perceptual position in which I can step into your eyes looking back at me. And that takes imagination.
Mm. Is there a conscious effort when you or people like us talking about it to keep this discourse secular? Because this can, if you don't have that inhibition to keep it secular, can immediately turn to kind of a shamanistic talking, or me and you and I see in your eyes and all that. How do you see that
I
inhibition?
I think that because contact improvisation works across many different cultures, yes, I would say yes, this sensibility of being able to ride this um, this capacity to act without without acting without it being embedded in any particular spiritual system is because there's so many ways that people can understand what is happening. Um, I don't think it means without spirit or without godliness, without um, the sensibility of something greater than the single being.
Well, I'm asking this because what I feel or I think when what we are naming imagination here is kind of a complex thing that we are experiencing, that some element of transpersonal is there, some element of trans
Oh,
something is there, and then
absolutely.
we don't want to acknowledge that, or we want to kind of go around it and not naming it,
No.
or
When you say transpersonal, I absolutely think that communication is not verbal communication, and it's not communication that happens as um, one person says something or does something and the other person does. It's not a give and take. It's not leader and follower. It's not. Um, I can't think of the word for it, the terms, but that I my body can absolutely be moved, and when I live in a body mind that is easily moved, and I train this all the time, then I have a capacity to listen, and I allow myself to be moved by the world, not just by my brain. And what's moving me? Not always knowing. Do I need to name what that is? No. So I don't have to call it a shamanic act for it to happen and to recognize it and to speak about it.
yeah.
In fact, I'm as a teacher, more powerful when I don't name it because I can speak across cultures. I can indicate that thing. And believe me, I have had profound experiences
I bet.
that that I cannot explain other than that the world just decided to teach me, you know?
Nita,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious about something
Yeah.
here.
Samuel,
Yeah,
great. Thank you.
yeah. So you know what? I'm curious about what happens if we actually like let go of this structuring, this kind of fantasy that seems to be repeated more and more now. It's like we're all going to church and this is the liturgy, right? We like go after Rene Descartes. We kind of stand up these dualities about embodied, disembodied, Western, Eastern, in the brain, in something that's not brain, in the nervous system or not in the nervous system. Like, what if we actually let go of that as a structuring principle for what's going on here?
And what would you put, how would you speak about it? First of all, I have to say there is no disembodied state. If it's recognizable to you, it's not disembodied. I mean, there's no human that's disembodied and living.
Yeah, and conceptually, I can see myself, that's sort of like my liturgy. I see a bunch of people, craned over their cell phones or, in Zoom or
Yeah,
whatever the
there,
case may
but
be.
there,
Like
there's
that is a type of embodiment, and the body is
exactly,
tuning.
exactly.
Like the human form is tuning in a fascinating way. Like, my skeleton just it seems to have walked around a beautiful orchard in the last hour, with dog next to me, and yet like some part of the like ability to and
You're
shape
breaking up. Say that
it.
again. Samuel, say that again, please. You're breaking
I don't
up.
know if it needs to be. I don't know if it needs to be said again.
Okay.
uh,
Sorry.
yeah.
I didn't get the last bit.
No, that's okay. Are you getting me now?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm curious about what if we enter into these questions about uh what is moving us in this, what can be motive, and what we're into
Now you're
strange
breaking up.
states that
When
Yeah,
you get to it, you're breaking up. I can't
perfect,
understand you.
perfect. Yes, that's it. That's exactly it.
that's exactly it. So it's like I think he's mentioning that naming and languaging about all of this. He's questioning that just this action and process of naming and languaging about this. And he's saying, it's not working. And actually, it is not working when he's
It
talking
is
about
not working. Right.
it.
Yeah, I think naming things does get in the way. I
Mm,
think naming things, well, language is a gift, and thank God we have language.
thank God. Yeah.
Language organizes and shapes attention.
Mm,
And it in the way we attend, it is our the way we organize our attention has everything to do with with our communication, with our relations, with what we can know, with how we know, with and so language is dangerous. I think language is a gift, and it's a dangerous gift.
mm. Yeah, this metaphor of a ladder comes to my mind. That it's like a ladder that you climb to go to the roof, and then you have to drop it. You don't stay on the ladder. Okay.
Right, exactly that.
I think it's a roomy metaphor. He's not using
Uh-huh.
it about language. He's using it
Yeah.
about something else. I don't remember, but it could
Uh,
apply here.
yeah, like letting go of it. Now you've made your
Yeah.
decision. Yeah, it was a tool to get somewhere, and now it's no longer needed.
Wrong.
Yeah, or to cross the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The I am very language careful
Mm.
when because I do think it's dangerous. And for that reason, I am also very careful about creating any ideology if I can. I just, I don't want to, I want to note that all embodiments are formed and shaped by what people think is true and what is possible. And I can say for me, I'm engaged in reimagining what can be possible as a human, what a human can be. Not all cultures have the same imaginary, and they do not have the same embodiments, and they do not have the same experiences. So living is experienced differently. And language does not fit all of those embodiments, English language especially. Yeah. I assume you speak Chinese.
I do sometimes, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Mm.
And when you speak Chinese, what is different for you in how you feel as a human? or being?
Well, my mother tongue is Persian. I'm from Iran,
Oh, okay.
so it's not English. So I totally find different selves or different parts of the self in each of these languages. Even the tone of my voice is totally different. This is my English voice that I'm talking now.
Yeah.
And my Chinese voice is different, Persian voice is different.
Uh-huh.
Somehow that the social dynamic that I grew up into that language defines that voice.
Yeah. I
Uh,
found the Chinese voice quite difficult
yeah.
to listen to because it's very, at least in Shanghai, it was very aggressive voice, very loud and very,
Yeah. And that's how to say the gesture, but just the part of the vocal cords that's being used,
uh-huh.
or the resonance somehow different.
Yeah.
That's partially, I think, because I'm still not fully confident about, for example, my Chinese. So I
Okay.
use a little bit upper parts of my vocal, but it's not
Uh-huh.
relevant to what you're questioning. You're more about the imagination, but it's like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
imagined self that I'm having, that this is not adequate. Then I might speak a little bit like, um, not deeper here, but it comes a little bit more further to the mouth.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, but back to your this idea of imagination and using the language for imagining. Uh, yeah, this is a lot of imagery, especially when it's writing involved, which Chinese people think a lot in writing. Even when you don't understand something, they use their fingers and to write it in the air for you so that you understand what they're talking about. They do this thing and they think this makes it more clear. For them,
So,
it is.
so, so, when we're talking language, we're talking sound.
Mm.
And when we're talking about an embodied state that is engaged in communication with or as that is relationally present um, to a world that it is embedded, that state for me is way beneath language. It is a tactile embeddedness.
Mm.
It is the
Mm.
embeddedness of um, felt forms and felt
Wow.
knowing
Wow. Yeah.
and tactile, touch based
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it does not take the form of language. I have to use language to speak about it, but language is always, as Samuel points out, in the way
Mm.
because it is touch and all of that material of that it is touch that extends that allows Nita to be a larger form.
Yeah.
I
As you're saying this, made me think, making voice sounds is actually is a way of touching myself. Is part of me, part of my muscles is touching the other part of me touching myself. And like
exactly.
languaging is an act of touching at the
Exactly.
micro
I
level.
had a professor Alvin Noe,
Uh-huh.
who works with dancers, by the way, but he's a philosopher. He's a cognitive science philosopher.
Mhm.
Um, and he has said everything touches everything, that it's all touch. There's nothing that is not touch, which is so.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so communication will ultimately be touch based,
Mm.
whether it's verbal, because even as you speak, I'm hearing you touch you. And the sound is a tactile form that touches me
Mm.
as waves enter and act on me. It's tactile.
Mm. 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 Wow. Mm.
So on some level, nothing's not touch.
Nothing is not touched.
Yeah, and if nothing's not touch, the double negative is perfect. If nothing's not touched, then it means that we have spent all of this time not talking, or acting on touch as a society. We're very touch averse in the US and in the Western world. And that's a problem. That's a relational problem.
Mm.
Yes, hey, George.
Oh, I was just thinking, well, yeah, or touch adverse, but also we're not touching.
Right, exactly. We're touch averse, but we're not touching. We're just not acknowledging that we're touching.
But we're not
Yeah.
acknowledging it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's like
We're not
that's the
talking
thing.
about it. We're not educating it. We're not taking it further. There's my imagination acting, guys.
Well,
I'm
yeah, it
saying
was,
this goes further, and we're not doing that job. There's a technology to this. We're not doing that job.
and we're sharing this like actually the first thing you said was about imagination and then embodied. What was it? It was like you're talking about like embodied imagination. And when
Yeah,
you're talking about communication, it was like, yeah, there's this like, if you embody the imagination, then you're sharing it. Or like it's in communication all of a sudden by being
right,
embodied.
right, 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 right.
This
Hey, you
made, I don't know,
guys,
this made
guess
sense somehow.
what? We're 15 minutes overtime. We have to
Yeah.
stop. But
Wonderful too. Mm.
God, wonderful that you came, Adele. George,
Thank you.
really fabulous that you came, and I say the same to what's his name? I just lost it.
Samuel.
Samuel,
Samuel.
Samuel. Yeah, thanks to Samuel. Yeah,
there
yeah,
was somebody else. Where did they disappeared? But
yeah. Who else came?
forget.
Okay.
Somebody you've touched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dissipated now.
Lovely to share space. Thank you,
Lovely
Nita.
to be with you.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Take care.
Yeah. Until
Good night.
next.
Until next. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.